Imagine you wake up tomorrow and there is $1 million sitting in your bank account. A jackpot, an inheritance, a business sold. Doesn't matter. It's real and it's yours. For the first time in your life, the pressure is just gone. Every bill you have could be paid by lunchtime. Now here's the uncomfortable part. Economists tracked thousands of real lottery winners, and a stunning number of the biggest winners ended up worse off than before they ever won. Wait, really? Really? And the force that empties their accounts isn't yachts. It's something far quieter. It's the way a big pile of money can only ever drain, while the life it buys quietly speeds up around it. Let's start with the purest money experiment there is, the windfall. One big pile, landing all at once. And it's not rare, by the way. Inheritances, home sales, settlements, a crypto run. At some point, a lump of money lands on most of us. Most people assume that when winners lose it, it's the flashy stuff, the supercar in the driveway, the oversized house, the yacht with a helipad. And sure, you've seen those headlines. Jackpot millionaires back at a day job, stars who earned fortunes filing for bankruptcy. It happens so often it has a nickname, the lottery curse. But that's not what drains most of them. The money usually vanishes in a way almost nobody sees coming. Here's the part nobody explains. A windfall is a reservoir, one fixed pool of money. Nothing flows in to refill it. It can only go down. And a pile feels infinite the day it arrives, because you've never watched a number that big run out. But the life it buys is a flow, a stream of costs that repeat every single month, forever. And the moment the money lands, that flow quietly speeds up. A nicer home, a better car, a helping family, which is beautiful, by the way, and just saying yes a lot more often. None of it feels reckless. Each choice on its own looks completely reasonable. A round of golf becomes a membership. One nice dinner becomes every day. The holiday becomes the holiday home. The pile doesn't drop, it leaks. But every yes raises your burn rate, what your life costs to run month after month. And a burn rate is sneaky because it hides inside normal life. Nobody itemizes the upgrade, they just live it. And a fixed pile with a burn rate climbing under it can only end one way. Watch what $1 million does against $40,000 a month. 25 months. And that's the quiet version. No scandals, no casinos, just a normal feeling upgraded life. Eating a fixed pile alive. A fortune that should last decades, gone in a few short years. The data backs this up. Economists followed about 35,000 Florida lottery winners for years after the win. These were people handed $50,000 to $150,000, a good wealth bump in a single check. Here's the proof, side by side. Small winners on the left, big winners on the right. Within 5 years, they went bankrupt at almost the identical rate. Same ending, whatever the check. Quick one before the next part. If this is already making sense, like and subscribe. Now maybe you're thinking, I'd be different. And anyway, nobody's handing me $1 million. Fair, but stick around, because the exact same trap is running on your paycheck, just in slow motion. So here it is, one step at a time. You finally land the raise you've been chasing for years, a big one. More money every single month, and you think, this is it. This is how I finally pull ahead. And to be clear, you earned that raise. The skills, the hours, the difficult boss. This is not a video against raises. A year later, you check the balance, and it looks almost exactly the same. Where did it go? Here's the mechanism. The moment your income rises, something rises right behind it. Your spending. The two lines climb together, almost in lockstep. And that's not just a feeling. The household spending data shows it plainly. Across almost every income level, the more people take home, the more goes back out the door. It has a name, lifestyle inflation, a roomier place. Dinners out you don't think twice about, a newer phone, a newer car. Treating yourself feels like the whole point of a raise, and honestly, a little of it is. And none of it feels excessive, it just feels like you've finally arrived. There's even brain science here. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. Within months, every upgrade becomes the new normal. The dream car becomes just your car. And once the brain resets, only one thing feels like progress again. The next upgrade. And there's a darker twist the brain plays. Once a lifestyle becomes your new normal, your mind redraws the line. That level isn't a treat anymore, it's the floor. So if your income ever dips, even to a number that once felt like plenty, it doesn't feel like enough. It feels like losing. Every upgrade you lock in raises a floor you'll fight never to fall below again. So your costs rise to swallow the raise. You're earning more and keeping the same. Run the numbers on a $10,000 raise. After tax, that's maybe $600 a month. One car payment and a few subscriptions later, it's gone, before a single dollar got saved. This is the treadmill. You sprint, pull in more, spend more, and the finish line never moves an inch. And the cruel part? From the outside, the treadmill looks like success. New car, new address. Same zero at the end of the month. Need proof the treadmill is real? Economists tracked nearly 2,000 NFL players, men who earned millions over their careers. Within 12 years of retiring, about 1 in 6 had filed for bankruptcy. and it barely mattered how much they had earned or how long they'd played. The income was never what kept them safe. Because the thing that builds wealth was never the income. It's the gap, the distance between what comes in and what you let go back out. A huge earner with no gap builds payments. A modest earner with a wide gap builds wealth. Think of that gap as a shield. It's what protects you from the treadmill, and it's the only thing that ever turns into real wealth. A raise widens that gap for about a month, then lifestyle inflation quietly closes it again. So a windfall drains and a raise gets swallowed. Which leaves the real question: what actually makes you rich? That part is worth stealing. The answer starts with what a paycheck actually is. You're renting out your hours, and the day you stop showing up, the payments stop with you. Now, that can be a good trade. A salary is how almost everyone starts. The problem is when your time is the only thing you ever own. An asset is the opposite. It's something you own that keeps sending a steady stream of money into your pool on the days you work and the days you don't. A share of a company, a rental property, a royalty, a small business, they pay you on the days you work and on the days you don't. That's the real divide. It was never high earners versus low earners. It's owners versus renters of their own time. And here's the part nobody tells you. You don't have to quit renting your time. You just take a slice of what the rented time earns and buy engines with it. And it shows up in the government's own numbers. The Federal Reserve maps out exactly where households park their net worth, and the split is stark. For most families, about half of everything they own is the home they live in, which pays them nothing each month. For the wealthiest tenth, the picture flips. Most of their wealth sits in business equity and stocks, the assets that quietly pay them. But here's the good news. Those money streams are not a members-only club. They're open to anyone, for sale to anyone. These days, a single share can cost less than a pizza. So the winner buying a bigger life and the high earner buying upgrades are making the same mistake, turning money into costs. The wealthy turn money into engines. But engines toward what exactly? Most people chase a salary number, wrong target. The number that actually buys your freedom isn't what you earn. It's what your life costs to run for a year. And there's a rough rule for it. Take your yearly spending and multiply by 25. That's the size of the engine that can cover your life for decades without you adding another dollar. Spend $40,000 a year? Your number is about $1 million, in assets, not in stuff. But why 25 exactly? Because 25 is the flip side of the 4% rule. A portfolio like this can safely hand you about 4% of itself a year, while the growth roughly keeps pace. 4% of $1 million is $40,000, your whole year's spending paid by the engine. Instead of a pile you spend down, you've built a reservoir that pays you while it holds its level. And it's not just how big the engine is, it's how fast you build it. Save 10% of what you earn, and freedom is roughly 50 years out. 20%, about 37. Push to 50%, and it's just 17 years. The percentage you keep sets the clock. Your income barely touches it. So how do you actually start building toward that number? 3 moves. First, a low-cost S&P 500 index fund at Vanguard or Fidelity. One purchase, and you own a slice of 500 of the biggest companies on Earth. Over the long haul, it's averaged about 10% a year. The trick isn't spotting the one winner, it's quietly holding all 500 at once. Now, some years it drops and drops hard. 10% is the long-run average for people who stay in, not a yearly promise. One catch the brochures whisper, every fund charges a fee. A tiny-looking percent skimmed off the top every single year. 1% sounds like a rounding error. Over a lifetime, it's anything but. Over a working career, an extra 1% in fees can quietly swallow a quarter or more of your final nest egg. That's the whole point of those 2 words, low cost. The plain index fund we just named charges almost nothing. Same market, more of the gains land in your pool. Second move, automate the gap. Even $50 swept out the morning your pay lands, before lifestyle inflation ever notices it is there. The automation matters more than the amount. Money that moves on payday never gets the chance to become lifestyle. And if you're outside the US, same move, local flavor. A broad index fund through your own bank or broker works exactly the same way. And if $50 feels too small to matter, watch what it becomes, compounding at 10%. About $74,000 in 20 years, and the longer it runs, the faster it climbs. And that's just the 50. Every time your pay goes up, nudge the autopilot up with it. Let the raise feed the gap instead of the lifestyle. Want to see what that one choice is actually worth? 2 people, same job, same raise, about $600 more a month after tax. Meet Ava and Ben. Ben does what feels natural. He lets the raise lift his lifestyle. A nicer car, a few more yeses. Ava does the boring thing. She sends that same $600 straight into the index fund every month and forgets about it. 30 years on, Ben has nicer stuff in the same empty gap. Ava put in $216,000 of her own, and it grew to more than $1.25 million. Same income the whole way. The only difference was the gap. Third move, if sudden money ever lands on you, do nothing for 6 months. Park it somewhere safe, a high-yield savings account, and let the urge to upgrade pass. And while it sits there cooling off, it finally pays you. That account earns real interest while you take your time. Because that itch to act, the desire to spend the money to upgrade your lifestyle, is the very force we've spent this whole video watching. Sit still, and it starves. More money was never the fix. The pile drains, the raise gets swallowed, but an engine refills. The people who keep their fortunes all do the same thing. They turn the pile into the engine and let the engine buy the life. And here's what makes the wait worth it. Once your assets are producing, the streams flowing, the reservoir rising, you can finally do what the windfall winners rushed into and lost. Help the people you love. Upgrade your life. Only now it lasts, because you're spending what your system produces, not draining the pile. So when money lands, don't rush to upgrade. Delay it. Feed the reservoir first, then let your assets, not your paycheck, lift your lifestyle and your families for good. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.